Oh, it's the BeanTown Sports Wolfcast. Oh, the VSW podcast proudly presents feature presentation featuring the hub of all four Boston sports teams, the BeanTown Sports Wolfcast. Thank you very much. Cut it out. And welcome everyone to the VSW's own BeanTown Sports Wolfcast. The Serble here. And today, what we're going to go over is moderated by the Versace Stoner. I'm going to talk a little Celtics Bruins, but mainly I'm going to recap the horrible performance in hot Miami and what they call the House of Horrors for the New England Patriots. Recapping not only their loss yesterday, what their playoff implications were coming into yesterday's game and what the current matchup is, and preview a little bit about what I think is going to happen. But I'm hoping to do a special preview and have someone call in for the wild card matchup that's playing. I found out on Saturday. But we are going to get into things, shall we, Versace?
Oh, for sure, everybody. I'm happy to be back here on the BeanTown Sports Wolfcast. Always a pleasure to say, Wolf. I get you on the VSW all the time. Not all the time do I get to come on here, talk sports with you, kick it. Unfortunately, it's not a happy day of sports. I'm not too happy about it. It's not really like the games that I remember when we played Miami and squished the fish. That's for sure. But I can't wait for you to dive right into it all. Talk about all the excitement. Talk about the gold and black. Talk about the green. And talk about the red, white, and blue.
Absolutely. So what's been going on in Boston sports? As we know, the COVID issues have been running wild, and the green have been back, but the black and gold not only been back, they won 4 of their last 5 games, which is really, really good. The
I'll
key,
take it. I'll take it. And, that's something that, the Bruins have always kind of been doing in the last decade or even longer is kind of just all of a sudden out of nowhere just getting really good.
absolutely, they've made the playoffs for like 8 out of the past like 10 years, which is really good. In the last few years, they've made it to the semifinals and not making. Speaking of, there's a lot of college national championship football, but in the nation's capital, the Bruins have smoked the Washington Capitals in a 7-3 victory. But the coach of the Bruins, Bruce Cassidy, ever since they came back from COVID protocols, the Bruins were
Who? Orange Cassidy?
ha ha ha. He doesn't really have his hands in his pocket though, Versace, and he
That's
actually
good.
says full sentences.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, because the Bruins have had a lot of COVID protocol issues, as you know, Versace. And what happened is that they had a huge line with all their best players, with Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, and David Pastrnak. And Bruce Cassidy decided to break them all up in their 2 different lines, and that's made a huge difference because the third and fourth line's been really struggling for the Bruins prior to their hiatus on the holidays, and the Bruins have won 4 in the last 5, including beating the defending Stanley Cup champions in overtime on Saturday night, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lightning will strike twice, and you can't win all the titles in Tampa.
Well, no. But like I said, right now Boston is kind of in a weird spot. I mean, it's any man's game as far as where we go. And yes, it has been a real issue with the COVID protocols. COVID, I think, has just been going to be, it's continued to be an issue throughout, right until honestly, until the summer with this. Who knows with what other variants of things happen and how fast. And, this one's spreading really fast. Like, so, it's taking multiple players out, switching games around. It doesn't seem to be as hectic of a season as it was last year. Last year, it just seemed like everything was just everywhere. They do seem to have things a little bit more in order this year.
Absolutely, there is. But the problem is with, I'll talk about the Celtics in a minute. The problem is in the NHL is, yeah, most places like the MLB and NBA have the Toronto Blue Jays and the Toronto Raptors, but the NHL, you're basically in two countries. And as you know, north of the border, they're real strict up there. And a lot of players have been getting trapped if they have test positive and they have no symptoms.
Oh, I know. I remember. I mean, it even affected our wrestling world. I mean, look what it did with like people like Jody Threat. Remember?
Yeah, oh yeah, she's trying to get a visa and she told us and trying to move to the US.
And it's just been a kind of a tough thing. And it is being played between two countries. It is basically the only game. I mean, yeah, okay, fine, Toronto Blue Jays, but I mean, who the hell cares about the Toronto Blue Jays? Honestly,
I don't even know if they people in
I
Toronto
don't even think Toronto even knows that the Blue Jays exist. I think
uh,
American fans go there just to watch cheap baseball, and they hope that
yeah,
and when they play
she
their favorite team.
years ago handed me a $8 ticket to try and buy.
That's what I'm saying. You could go there for $8 and watch them play your favorite home team. Well, it's probably cheaper than going to Fenway and all its fucking gimmicks and shit. So, I mean, I can see Toronto's just what poor man's baseball land, but yeah, I mean,
Talk a
I don't
little.
really consider that anything. They don't have a football team. Do they have a basketball team now? Right?
They won the NBA title a year and a half ago.
Oh, the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. They're one of the newer teams though.
yeah.
As far as basketball teams go, like I mean, I remember like when I say newer teams, I remember like back in the day when like the teams like before like the Hornets didn't even exist. They came into it like that was a
Oh,
brand new team they introduced into the same thing with the NFL. At one point, the Vikings they were a brand new team. They had never existed. Minnesota never had a football team until then. It was later on. It was a new team.
I think people only found out about them when Randy Moss and Dante Culpepper was on that team.
Exactly, but I mean, for most part, I don't really feel like Canada has a real major foothold in major sports. Besides NHL, they own that.
Absolutely.
Even with having maybe less teams than we do, all together put, I feel like they still have more of a fan base. They still have more everything.
It is like Sunday football down here in the south of the border, Versace, is that people gather to it's regional coverage of like the Maple Leafs always get the top announcing crew like you would like the Cowboys would get like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. They would get the top announcing crew. That's
Really.
how
So
and
if like they would always be getting the Sydney Bacabella kind of treatment.
oh yeah. You know what that is, except they just like Sydney Bacabella, the Maple Leafs all have their past and heritage that makes them what they are. But
You,
they find ways to choke in the playoffs, even though they are currently leading the division the Bruins are in.
But to be honest with you, I find actually I run across a lot of Canadian hockey fans. Um, I remember when we had the big one. What is it? Like now, what almost 10 years ago, we beat Canada.
Yeah, we beat Vancouver,
Yeah,
and
when
then
was that? In I forget the year, but
two.
I was very good friends with a Canadian fan, and he was just and as you know, some of the wrestlers even love the Canadian hockey teams. So I mean, it's kind of funny and that they do.
Yes,
I mean, I don't know if they actually go to them, but they do follow them and they do love them. And some of them were rooting against. Like I said, this guy was rooting against the Canucks over us. I was like, what the hell? He's like, nah, I'm a true fan of them. I'm like, okay, whatever it is, it is. I don't get into that. Who you like? You don't have to be fans of your hometown. I just find it surprising when you find Canadian fans because how did they get introduced to it? I mean, we don't. I mean, yeah, you can watch it if you have the NFL network, but I feel like hockey is so like I don't know. It's like so territorial almost.
It's exactly what it is. Like, like local Bruins games will outdraw what they do on TV around here, like the typical sitcoms on the non-cable channels, but or national TV channels rather. But around the country as a whole, the ratings are hardly good. Even though the NHL were able to capitalize and get not one but the first time two separate TV deals, which send AEW to TBS because the NHL is not only on TNT, they're on ESPN and ABC too, moving from NBC and NBCSN. So
No, really.
because of the regional territorial aspect of it.
See. I don't know if I totally agree with it. Like I said, about the territorial part of things. I feel like it should be more if they want to build the fan base. I feel like hockey does have, while it is a very popular sport, it doesn't get the limelight that like the NBA does. Like everybody will know who
Exactly.
LeBron. Everybody knows LeBron James, and so, you know what I'm saying. Like it just transcends
And
sports. It goes beyond it.
and you got like in hockey, like in Stop and Shop, you'll see David Pasternak has his own pasta around here, but not in the
Oh
national.
yeah,
Oh, Brad Marchand is, or maybe Patrice Bergeron of the Bruins.
that's what I'm saying. Like I mean, if you got these people that have won, titles, and they've literally walked into Whole Foods Market in Newtonville and ordered food in front of people that did had no idea who the hell they even were. Now,
That's come
mind you, they might not be hockey fans, they're not sports fans. I get all that. Okay, coolio. But if, when Big Poppy walked into the store, because he did too, everybody knew who he was.
yeah,
Um, when Tom Brady kind of raided the Newton store, he wore the mask. I'm sure if he didn't wear the mask, everybody would have known who Tom Brady is, regardless if you watch football or not.
Whole Foods, a local Whole Foods in Newton, and half the people don't even know who he is.
That's what I'm saying. So you know what I'm saying. So like, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like hockey just doesn't get that limelight that other places do. Um,
It's
but
like
maybe
playoff.
it's not. It's just partly is the endorsements. You don't. And partly is like I said, you don't see. I mean, I do see now. I think Granzoni or some pasta now has Bruins on it. But most of the time, you used to see baseball, basketball, and football players on food packaging. Gatorade was for basketball players all the time. You had Jordan sponsoring it.
Very true.
And like another sport that we don't even really get to talk about much even in the mass in the U.S. is soccer. I mean, and that's probably the biggest worldwide sport.
And the Revolution did actually made it to the final, but no off didn't pay attention.
Yeah, nobody pays attention around here to soccer.
Like uh,
Um,
the Celtics are very shaky, but they've been losing a lot of close games since Christmas time. But lately, ever since New Year started, they beat Orlando in overtime where Jalen Brown had a record 50 points at the TD Garden as Jason Tatum's been out quite a bit of games due to COVID. But Jalen Brown's really stepped up to the player that the Celtics wanted him to be. And the next man up, Marcus Smart was kind of struggling. He's injury prone, but you got Robert Williams averaging like 8.9 rebounds for the Celtics, which helps. And the Celtics are currently beating the Indiana Pacers right now in overtime. Celtics are shaky, 19-21. They've been losing a lot of close games they should have won. Like they evened out with the Knicks and home. They beat the Knicks 99-75, and they lost by 3 points to them last Thursday. But
I mean, I remember when the Knicks weren't even a contender.
oh, and is they had this Jeremy Lin fantasy that kind of boiled them down, but until last year they finally spent the money and been good. So the Celtics division's really tough. You got the Brooklyn Nets who are a powerhouse with Kevin Durant. James Harden. And you got Kyrie with his vaccination issues being able to come back, but he can only play in road games because he's unvaccinated.
Ah,
We all
jeez. I get it, okay, but it got to come down to something. I mean, I hate to throw politics or not even politics, but just protocol into it. But you got other companies telling players, not players, but telling employees they're going to be fired if they don't get vax, this and that. I mean, isn't it about time? Let's just cut to the chase that they start suspending or maybe just suspend all the players that don't get vax. Why are you going to let them play home games here, not play there? What's that help? That doesn't help anything. You're still exposing the team. It makes no difference. They either have to make a hard line to stop this, or it's going to continue to just
pay Kyrie Irving a shitload of
right.
money.
But I mean, other companies, smaller businesses, little industries, and even bigger industries are mandating vaccines. You would think these sports industries would, because there is a lot of money behind them, and you would think the players would just do it because they're making millions of dollars.
I
I
think
don't
it's
know. This is my opinion. You would think there would be more of a hard line against it on the sport, especially where you had the whole Aaron Rodgers incident. You've had other things.
like,
Sports is a touchy go thing. Yes, it's very popular, but it also can have its issues. Like, look what happened, when it got wrapped up with, everybody kneeling during the political stance. That didn't help football at all. It actually hurt it very much that year.
yeah, definitely.
I
It's
think that year had a very low viewership overall due to politics, which is
down.
hardly ever happens in sports. So it is something to watch out for with this pandemic because it can easily put sports in the wrong light, and that will turn fans off very quickly. It'll turn sponsors off very quickly. All of a sudden, sports will become a problem. And nobody wants that. Everybody loves their sports. We all like our favorite sports. We all like our favorite teams. I'm a big fan of football on Sundays. That's what I like to do. I like to flip through my TV, check out the different games. Check out the different plays. You know, um, Basketball's another one. If the games are on at night, I like to watch them. Help me relax, kind of chill. Baseball, I have to I'm the kind of person that gotta be there.
Yeah,
And to be honest with hockey, I'm a playoff hockey guy. Uh, we
absolutely.
we've been lucky because our home team and my favorite team, the Bruins, have been in the playoffs more times than I can remember now. But again, I don't really watch hockey all year round. I watch it during the playoffs. I feel that that's the most exciting. It's kind of watching like, the season finale of your favorite show, just jumping right to the last minutes. It's always there's nothing like playoff hockey. It's the best hockey you're ever gonna see in the world. Better than Olympic hockey. It's the best.
Like to apologize to people listening. I am not going to talk too much about the Bruins and Celtics because the most important thing we're here for is the results of the New England
Oh, I've
Patriots.
been
Yes,
trying to defer that since we came on the show. I don't want to hear about the horrible news. I don't want to hear more bad news out of the New England camp. But if you must get to it, Wolf. Get to it.
kind of have to go over. So I'll let you know before we start talking about the Patriots. Let's go back in time a few days before yesterday at the potential scenarios. So the New England Patriots got moved to 4:30 at the same time as the Bills facing the Jets because the Bills had the tiebreaker over the Patriots. The Pats won the first meeting on that Monday night in that freaking wind chill, which Mac Jones only had 3 passes, and then Buffalo the day after Christmas really shredded the defense and had it so that the offense couldn't score many points, but the defense couldn't make a stop. But here's the big key factor and why we had to depend on the Bills to lose because in the AFC, if you tie with someone and you don't play them, it's by conference record. If you tie with someone for the division, the first things first is if they play each other. If you beat them twice, you get the tiebreaker over them. That's not the case, as like I said earlier, they split, but you have to have a better division record. And the Bills destroyed Miami both times they played them. And here's the big big miscue with the Patriots this year. Yeah, they've lost some close games. But the opening game for the New England Patriots, when they played the Miami Dolphins, Damian Harris fumbled the ball, and if they killed a lot of time, could have got a game-winning field goal. And then the Dolphins got a first down in the opening day, give Patriots the first loss of the season. And that made a huge difference because if the Pats have won that game, not only would they not have worried about the bad news that happened yesterday, they would have won the division. They might have had a chance for home field because they would have had the tiebreak over Tennessee, as they could have had the number one seed if. But the Kansas City beats Chiefs beat the Denver Broncos on Saturday. The Titans beat the Texans yesterday, and the Bills beat the Jets, which we all knew was going to happen. So it was very slim.
And
But
didn't some big news come out of Chicago?
yeah, they fired their coach.
Very good news indeed. I seen a few people happy about that.
Oh, I know. He's been. They surprisingly made the playoffs last year, but got destroyed. It's just the Bears were a shaky team. But speaking of firings, you're going to be shocked once I recap this game for the New England Patriots coming in. Their main focus is it. Like I said all week, it was either a big game or a pointless game. And the problem is the NFL on week 18 used to be week 17. They expand the game. Always wants teams to not bench any of their starters as much as possible. And they move games last minute. So they put both the Bills and the Patriots at the same time. And the Patriots started Tua threw a short pass to Jalen, rookie sensation Jalen Waddle for a touchdown pass, which was 7-0. But Mac Jones was really shaky yesterday, and so was the Patriots defense. Mac Jones threw a pick six to Xavier Howard of the Miami Dolphins. So the Pats had another slow start, which ever since December, they've been really bad with slow starts, like that loss to Indianapolis. They had to come from behind. The Bills the day after Christmas. You take away last week's game against Jacksonville where they destroyed them. If the Pats would have had a really, really bad December if it wasn't for that game, because Mac Jones was very consistent all year long, but he was becoming very inconsistent as the offensive line suffered injuries, and now they're losing key defensive players. You had Christian Barrymore get rookie defensive end got injured at the last 2 minutes of yesterday's game, and you had a lot of bad penalties on the defense yesterday, and this made it that it was Miami's game. The Pats did storm back, but they
But
call it the
you
house.
know, to go back to something you said. You said Mac Jones was shaky yesterday. This is something in New England. Before we never had to worry about. We never had to go into it going, "Hey guys, Brady's a little shaky today. I don't think we're gonna have a good day." Like he was the one person that was always just on point. His bad days are better than anybody's worst days. Like it's just something we didn't have to worry about. Is a QB going to perform up to par?
Yeah,
I find it kind of hard now to watch it with that. It's an added stress as a New England fan. Something we didn't have to deal with. Like I said before, we were very lucky to have the consistency of Tom Brady in excellence. Now,
oh,
maybe Mac Jones will get there. Maybe they'll get there again sooner than later, hopefully. But for now, like you said, you do have to say things like, he was looking shaky.
yeah,
But
very true. Because remember, I talk about how the hard goal the Patriots been this year is their running game. Obviously, they don't want to play Damian Harris too many reps, which is good because save him for the playoffs. But the other guy I fell in love with,
you, you,
Renande,
see,
got
I
injured.
guess my fear with the whole dynasty is that in like 10 years, 20 years, I don't want to be going, hey, the Saberwolf. You remember the Pats, how good they were? And we're talking about the Pats like we talk about WWE in the Attitude Era. And now it's like, the Patriots are where WWE is now, just trash. Like, I don't want it to get that way. They need to be on top of building a better dynasty.
Absolutely, we don't want Cowboys are decent this year. You don't want to be. the Niners and Cowboys fans talking about the 80s and 90s.
And that's what I feel like we could become. In the
What a
in 10 years, not even in the 80s, 90s, just talking about the Brady era. I mean, we still, yes, it's still kind of fresh now. It's only been a few years, but in 5 years, when are we gonna forget? When are we gonna forget about Brady? How long will it take New England to forget about Brady?
yeah, it's just like the Montreal Canadiens fans always talk about the 70s, 80s, and 90s because they dominated the NHL. Same way we don't want to become.
That's what I'm afraid of. I just don't want to become this thing.
Mm.
Boston, we can say we would in basketball, we can talk about a few decades. We can talk about the 80s, 70s. We talk about again in the 2000s. Baseball, we had our ups and downs. Obviously, we had a really bad time for a long time, but they did some wonders.
But there was no one alive to talk about the Babe Ruth days in Boston for such.
No, there was not, and but there was definitely people that grew up never seeing the Red Sox win
For
a title. It was their first time ever. I remember my grandfather very, very excited as he had never seen it in his lifetime, and he was 70 years old. He was a couple years before he died. He was 70 years old at the time.
I was still happy. That's when I really started getting the. Well, I really got into the Patriots before Brady because I was a Drew Bledsoe fan. One of my first jerseys was Drew Bledsoe. I had a Terry Glenn jersey too.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was a Bledsoe fan. I was even a Red Sox fan. Rest in peace. We did lose, a Red Sox pitcher, you know, Corsi, and he
He's
actually is one of my cousins,
yeah,
on
very
my mom's side.
really sorry for your loss.
Oh no, thank you, but it's a big loss for the whole community. I feel, you know, um, Jim Corsi was a great player in my opinion. I grew up remembering him, watching him actually with like the Marlins,
Mhm.
and then when he got taken by the Red Sox, it was pretty cool, to say, hey, my cousin played for the Red Sox, but he won a World Series, and he did some things, and unfortunately he got diagnosed in January with stage 4 cancer,
Yeah.
and that was it was quick after that he died, and unfortunately, he didn't get testing when he should have, and he missed things that he should have done, and overall very sad. But he was a very skilled pitcher, and rest in peace. It's like I said, a loss to the community, and like I said, we're losing a lot of people. We lost Betty White
Now,
recently. We
like
lost
that, Daggett, the great Danny Tanner, the great America's dad, including even though even without Full House, he was the opposite of that in his stand up.
Oh
I
my
really
god, his stand up was insane compared to his like father figure. I remember watching it with one of my ex girlfriends, and I was just like in amaze on just how raunchy it freaking was. I was like, what the fuck? But it was great, and he was very funny in one of my favorite movies ever. It's one of my great favorite stoner movies.
Danny Tanner going to talk to the Olsen twins, and Michelle on camera talking about sex stuff, trying to replace their mother like he would in a stand up.
But no, have you ever watched Half Baked?
Yeah, I've seen some of it.
You gotta watch Half Baked. Great movie, and he's in one of the scenes, and he talks about sucking dick for crack and sucking dick for weed and stuff.
Invented
And you
YouTube
never.
videos before they were a thing with America's Funniest Home Videos.
Oh, that too. But his big thing, his big key phrase in this, and it's hilarious because I guess if you ever seen a stand up show, he'll talk about how people like screamed it out to him. He said, but in the movie he goes, marijuana is not a drug. I use to suck dick for coke. Now that's an addiction. You ever suck dick for marijuana?
Hmm.
Hilarious.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean we've had some tough losses already. End of last year into this year, been bad.
Patriots could have used the Danny Tanner pep talk.
They could
Yes.
have. They could have. You know, that was like I said, a tough loss and a wake up call. I feel.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully
because
it's a wake up call. I
they
mean,
got
I
a
don't
lot.
know. I mean, honest opinion. You think they're gonna hit the playoffs, or you think it's just still up in the open?
They're already in the playoffs, dude. Like they clinched it last week against Jacksonville. But I know what you're saying. Are they going to be one and done, or you think they're going to make a run? I think they're gonna go win at least one game. I do.
I mean, that would be good. That would be good for the morale of Boston. Just to go in there and get squashed in the first round.
I told you, injuries to Duggar, to Hightower, really killed this team because the Patriots have been really weak in stopping the run like they were last year. Towards they had a guy Duke Johnson Jr. the Dolphins picked up a few weeks ago, shredded their opponents a few weeks ago in New Orleans. They also he shredded the Patriots, a guy who hasn't really gotten a ground in his career. Really killed them with one rushing touchdown. It's over 100 yards rushing, which isn't. You got to be able to stop a run, especially if you're gonna advance in the playoffs. Is the Achilles heel is Tua didn't completed a lot of short passes. They should have tried to make Tua throw deep to so J.C. Jackson could have picked something off, or but they knew Brian Flores is a Patriot killer. He used to be the defensive coach of the Patriots. They've been playing the Patriots so tough since he's been hired in Miami, and he's got the numbers. So Miami did end up winning 33-24. It really was 27-24, but the Patriots penalties allowed the Dolphins to really kill that clock when they were coming back. They had a nice comeback. You had Brandon Bolden rushing for passing a screen pass from Mac Jones to make it 27-17. And you had Damian Harris get a touchdown. Damian Harris is the most fucking underrated running back in all the NFL right now. He out Derrick Henry's hurt. They all talk about Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, and Jonathan Taylor of the Colts, but Harris doesn't get the credit because we're so used to seeing Belichick not rely on running back. We're so used to the Patriots not excelling in the run game during the Tom Brady days. They didn't have to worry about it. Even when LeGarrette Blount shredded defenses or Jonas Gray had that one hit wonder game. Like they don't get the carries that people would think that the Patriots can run the ball, and it's a strength of the whole team.
Well, that's what I'm kind of saying. With the whole, we didn't have to worry about it with the Tom Brady era of things. Everything was just kind of automatic. I mean, you didn't even have to worry if we were making the playoffs. It was just the only thing you had to worry about was we were we gonna win the Super Bowl, or we're gonna win the championships prior to that to make it to the Super Bowl. That was basically it. Everything else was almost nearly always guaranteed, except a few years, really.
Oh, I know it, Versace. But the thing is, in the NFL yesterday, so we lost to Miami. The Bills all obviously beat the Jets. They rested up. So here's this interesting statistic. You know how it's Ben Roethlisberger, the Pittsburgh Steelers, said he's retiring, right?
Yeah,
So do you know the Jaguars? How Tony Khan owns them, and we kicked the shit out of them last week.
yeah.
Indianapolis Colts, who beat the Patriots early, to get in the playoffs had to beat this really terrible Jacksonville Jaguars team. But they've lost the last 5 games in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's the house of horrors for them, like beating in Miami. Now, Tom Brady always struggled in Miami. I know it's hard to believe. He won some games down there over the course of his career, but if he struggled, it would have been in Miami, especially that Kenyon Drink play a few years ago that cost them home field advantage in that Hail Miracle in Miami game. So the Dolphins know how to beat the Patriots really good, no matter how good or bad they are.
I mean, they kind of maybe they got like all Eli Manning secrets.
Oh, maybe who knows? But Flores doesn't know that well. But you're gonna laugh. The Dolphins had won 10 games and make the playoff. They start off 1-7 ever since they beat the Patriots in opening. They're the first team in NFL history to lose 7 straight and win 7 straight. They lost
Really
from the playoffs. If they had beaten Tennessee, they probably would have made the playoffs.
interesting.
And here's another interesting, how there's a new Black Monday in the NFL when they fire coach. The Dolphins fired their coach, Brian Flores, today.
Really?
Yeah, you beat Belichick twice, and you got. But there's speculation.
What? Who's working with them? Vince McMahon. Let's take what's working and get rid of them.
Maybe that's what. Maybe Al Davis used to do that with the Oakland, now Vegas Raiders. But you can tell. Here's the thing: is that there's rumors that Aaron Rodgers wants to go to Miami out of Green Bay, and
Really?
but there's a theory. People thought that
Oh,
was the
he
reason.
probably wants to go down there because you don't have to be vaccinated and nobody cares.
It could. You never know.
I'm telling you, that's probably the reason he's getting hate mail where he's at.
Yeah,
Probably
and the
like, let me go to Florida. I know people that went to Florida during the pandemic just to get away from everybody else.
yeah, exactly. You can't blame them sometimes because the weather's nice.
No, you can't. But Florida's its own beast. And next week I think we got a tough game ahead of us. You're gonna have.
Well, I want to before we get into that is that I want to talk about the scenarios I was going into. Let me finish, buddy. So I was going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers face the Baltimore Ravens. Ben Roethlisberger's retiring after this year. So they won a game winning field goal 16-13. So they have playoff scenarios. The Jaguars upset the Colts. The Colts are out. In order for Pittsburgh to get in coming to this weekend, you had to beat only the Ravens, but you had to make sure the Chargers Raiders game got flexed into Sunday Night Football. Didn't end a tie. And I don't know if you watched any of that game. Holy shit, what a season finale for football.
Oh, insane.
Ties hardly
I
ever
saw a
happen.
few of the highlights.
It's insane. So both teams could have just ran the ball and nailed it the whole time, and both of them, Raiders and Chargers, were getting the playoff. But the Raiders was throwing it, and then they were up 29-14. But Justin Hebert, what a great quarterback of this Los Angeles Chargers. I almost said San Diego. Threw a 20, and then another 2-point conversion to Austin Eckler, down 20. And they got the ball back when everyone thought the game was over. The reason why I want to talk about this game, Versace, there's a huge shock factor coming in. If the Raiders had beaten the Chargers, the Pats would be the number 6 seed, and the Raiders would have the better tiebreaker due to better conference record, I believe. And the Patriots would play Buffalo. When the Patriots would have the 5th seed and they would go to Cincinnati next week. So I was very interested to see because it affects the Patriots no matter who won.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah,
it does. And
and there was a
that's what it gets into at this time of year in football. It's not so even matter of much of who wins. Some of it is more important of who loses.
exactly. Here's the thing: is 29-22, the Las Vegas Raiders were up last night, and Justin Hebert had 4th and 12, fourth and 7, he converted six consecutive fourth down conversions in the fourth quarter, and he had a game tying touchdown when clock expired. And the game was going to overtime, so you had the Pittsburgh Steelers fans having possibly, I'm sure they say the ER is filled with COVID patients, but I'm sure in the Pittsburgh area, the ER was filling up for heart attacks because they would have to go through another overtime because how is that possible? If the game ended in a tie, the Pittsburgh Steelers would have been eliminated from the playoffs.
Oh, Jesus.
And
It
hit,
is tough.
and so they went up. Dan Carlson of the Las Vegas Raiders kicked the field goal to go up 32-29. And the NFL do overtime rules. It's 10 minutes long, right? So if you kick a field goal in the first possession, the other team would have a chance. It's
Yeah.
or touchdown first possession. There's no one.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
So you have the Chargers marching down, and they kicked a field goal. So 32-32, the Raiders got the ball back with 6 minutes left in overtime. Holy shit! If you're a Steelers fan, you were nervous that night. Holy cow! So they were running the ball. Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders was having hell of a game, especially that drive. They
You
were
say
running the ball.
John Jacobs?
Now, Josh
Hmm.
Jacobs.
Oh, Josh. I said John.
So you had 2:38 left to go. They were running the ball, and they showed a Steelers fan. Looks like he was swearing in the stands in Las Vegas Stadium. And you had and the Chargers called a timeout. Whether the clock they could have ran out the clock, both teams. And I heard they were going to settle for that tie game until the Chargers coach called that timeout. So Josh Jacobs ran for 20 yards. So 2 seconds left. They call timeout. And 32-32. If the Raiders kick it, they win it. The Chargers lose. If Carlson had missed, the Steelers would be eliminated from the playoffs and both teams would have tied. And Carlson hit the game winning field goal with 2 seconds left in overtime. It's like it was scripted. Like
Insane.
it was a great I could not remember a season finale game this great. If you had to rate them like in wrestling, it would have been a 5-star game. It was amazing watching last night.
I'll have to go back and do that.
Which
Believe it or not, I go and I can go and just download. Everybody uploads them, so I'll just re-download and I sometimes will just watch games.
so
I do
that
that.
means Patriots have a third meeting in Buff with the Buffalo Bills next week, Saturday night on
Well, that's
CBS.
what I
And
was gonna talk about, and I think it's all gonna boil down to it. I know you're not a fan of the Buffalo Bills, and I think it's because you're not a fan of Puff. I think it boils down to you and Puff, really.
oh yeah, you can't wrestle anywhere anymore.
But no, honest to God, though, we know a few Buffalo boys that have not been so nice to the VSW podcast. But you gotta wonder if they're fans. Oh, they're definitely fans of the Bills. But the Patriots. I remember a time the Bills weren't even on the map; they were a joke.
Yeah, well, we always shredded the Bills. The only time we really lost to the Bills before Brady left and before Josh Allen and Sean McDermott came to Buffalo was when when Drew Bledsoe signed with the Bills and they played opening day in the 2003 season and they lost 31-0.
Yeah, but that was before, but most of the time the Bills were a non-factor. This
Uh,
year, right now, it's kind of a factor. I mean, people are kind of stressing over this game.
because the Bills did make it to not only win the division last year, they made it to the AFC title game against the Kansas City Chiefs and losing to them. And
Plus,
the Bills,
like you said earlier, they beat Miami twice, did they not?
yeah, exactly.
And as you saw what happened to us, so
He,
there's gonna be
yeah,
some options now. I mean,
great quarterback, great. He can move in the pocket and throw the ball, which is very scary.
but like you said, the Pats are already in the playoffs, and this isn't a playoff game. Do they go out and give 100% and try to win this thing,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
do they
go
kind
on.
of just kind of chill a bit, hold off, don't get injured, and hold it out and wait to really start playing until playoff time?
Maybe that's what happened yesterday. To be honest, is that they gave Brandon Bolden, who's been a Patriot a long time, mostly a fourth string running back in the special teams, which the Patriots have struggled in. Even though they do have Matthew Slater, who's been leading the Patriots for 13 years and the special teams team captain. He's been doing a great job as this team doesn't quit. He even said on the post game on Patriots fifth quarter, there's no quit in this team. But Brandon Bolden has taken James White places as the clutch third down running back, pass catching running back angle as he scored a few touchdowns yesterday. And every Patriots are known for this next man up motto. So the Patriots, hopefully, they can get some players back, but it's going to be tough. I heard it might snow in Buffalo.
No, we're gonna wait and find out. I can't wait for this game.
Oh my God, me neither. It's going to be amazing. I think. Well, I'll let you know the prediction as the week goes on. Maybe Thursday we'll come back to a Wolfcast special and maybe find someone who wants to come on the show. I'll
Well,
try to.
maybe we can get some of those Buffalo-based wrestlers. That would be
Yeah,
nice if they want to talk. If they're football fans, anyways, and talk football with us, we would love that. Or any Buffalo fans, if you're out there listening, reach out. VSW Podcast. You can find us on all social media platforms, and just hit us up and say, hey, I want to come in. I want to talk about Buffalo. Or I want to talk about my favorite football team. And guess what? We'll have you on the show. We'd love to have guests on. A while back, we did one, and we had some people come in from fans of all around. Some people were even fans of, we had different fans from all around the states. It was a fun time. We enjoy talking with people. This isn't a place to down you. We'll listen to whoever you like. If you say, whoever your favorite team is, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't get into all that. So, open invitation, Buffalo fans. Come on, talk football. Talk with the Wolf. Be a great time.
absolutely. I wanted to put. Speaking of what I wanted to do next year for the 2022 season, to schedule a fan each week to recap the game against an opposing fan, as the opponent's schedule was finalized after yesterday. So the Pats will be playing next year. Obviously, the AFC East teams, Dolphins, Jets, and Bills, but they play the AFC North. They go to Green Bay, Minnesota. We got the Bears and the Lions coming here. So maybe the owner of Chaotic will want to go to a game next year. His Lions are coming in New England. So
I
maybe
want to go to the Bears game myself. To be honest with you, I will be trying to get tickets to that Bears game,
yep, we'll make a plan. VSW will go there next year.
and I
Might
guarantee if we go to that Bears game, we'll run into Sidney Bacabella.
be Bacabella.
And speaking Sidney Bacabella and wrestling and all of that funness, if people are still up and around and listening in after this, we will be diving into our chaotic wrestling preview.
Is in the hometown of the VSW, right down the street from the Wolf's Den, I might add.
We can't wait to talk about. We can't wait to see it. We can't wait to do it. That's just this is gonna be one hell of a weekend. We got that Friday night. We got this great football game Sunday. It's the
That
perfect package. You got Saturday all day just to chill and rest. What more could you want? What more could you want?
exactly two big things back to back for us.
It's gonna be wonderful. It's gonna be great.
Well, you can watch the Patriots, but hopefully their performance isn't as trash as the other. I don't want to say names. There's a promotion going on in that Jersey area that calls disabled people trash. So
Oh yeah, the only thing they're cooking up is the virus, my friend. down there. It is not going to be a pretty situation, unfortunately. I just have a bad feeling about it.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't like to be negative on my VSW, and the same should be said about the Wolfcast. So we'll just leave that with that. But you know what? We will be watching sports. We will be doing other things.
Like
There's no way I would ever support anybody that called disabled people trash. I find that despicable. I find that terrible. I find that horrible. It makes me sick to my stomach. But like I said, let's not get into all that.
if you
So
want to know, talk to us personally. But uh, like I said, like especially when they claim to be the world's nicest people, you know. Oh yeah.
oh, that's what it is. You know, that's what it is. But look, well, I thank you for having me on this show. But it's time for me to go and smoke a little before the chaotic preview.
So I'm gonna. You're free to go set up for chaotic Versace's. I'm gonna close this out my way, okay?
That sounds great.
So, folks, thank you all for tuning in. If you want the future of the Wolfcast, like this week, we'll do a preview on Thursday about the Patriots and the Bills. I want to try and get someone, preferably from Buffalo. Maybe if you're a Pats fan, message us, DM us, whether you're friends with me on Facebook or everything else, or message the VSW on Twitter, Versace. If you want to come on Thursday night, we're gonna have Chaotic next in the Sons of Italy in Watertown. This is a brand new ownership group in the unit. We'll talk more about that. And I thank you all for watching this Beantown Sports Wolfcast VSW presentation. The Wolf is signing off.